Okay, so preset transitions. I just wanted to say I just did a couple of the wipes, but there are tons of them here, and you do have some really simple ones. So I'm just gonna put one on this top video. So here's a block dissolve where the blocks fall. I think there was a preview of this. And so there are transitions that are a little bit more straightforward, and it looks like this one is also animating backwards, which is strange. So let me see. Transition completion 0%. Looks like maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way. I know I just went through this, but let me see. I'm just gonna take that off and I'm gonna put it down on this video clip. Down below, they typically tend to drop the transition beginning wherever you have your scrubbing tool on the timeline. So let me go ahead and drop it there. So we have the skull. Yeah, but that doesn't make sense because the animation's being applied to this layer. So I'm not sure. It just really seems like you need to play around with the keyframes where the keyframes are sitting with the presets. Anyways, enough about presets. Let's do something else. Okay, so I'm going to go through and show you a couple of things that you can use just as transitions from the effects menu. So the first one that I would like to use for this particular genre of visual media, which is like scary stuff, horror, is something called film burn. So I'm going to go, so good ones to kind of look at are distort, generate, perspective, and then simulation as well. So under, let's see, I am looking for film burn, and that is going to be under, let's see if I can just find it. I might have to actually, under distort perhaps. Let's see, I'm going to just look for burn, CC film burn. Oh, it's under stylize. Okay, so if I X out of this, I can go under stylize. There's some good stuff in there as well too. So under stylize, I'm going to go to CC Film Burn, and I'm going to use that actually as a transition on my top video here. So I'm going to go to CC Burn, and I'm going to go ahead and animate this as a transition. So I'm going to start the burn off at 0 right here. I dropped a keyframe here. The burn amount is at 0. I can do other things like have random seeds, which is like having it start to burn in different areas a little bit more randomly. But let's just see what it does. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to drag the burn all the way up to 100. And so you can see that has created a nice transition there. So this is my transition between the two pieces of footage. And then I could come in here and play around with like the random seed. It gives you this kind of, you could even animate that. So let's go ahead. Why don't I go ahead and just animate that? So I'm going to have it, let's say at 100 here. And I'm going to toggle that clock on to make a keyframe so that also while it's burning, maybe it kind of just looks like it's running through the film can. So I'm going to bring this up to, let's say 660, and then that should animate that a little bit more as though the film is kind of like running through something. Okay, so there's that one that you could do. I'm going to go ahead on the second one here and see, I guess maybe it is that I like to do these from scratch because I can control them a little bit better. The second one that we're going to do is Scatterize, and I do not know. I think that might be under simulation. Scatterize. So I'm going to go ahead and take Scatterize and place it on my second one here. And of course, nothing happens at first. So if I just want to see what this does, just to see what it's going to do to the footage, I can go ahead and come over here and I'm going to bring up my scatter amount. You can see there what it's scattering. All right, and I'm going to just go ahead and set that back to 0. Now, one thing that I'm noticing is that when I started to scatter this, it went to black, which means that this footage is not directly underneath where I might have this begin. So I'm going to just come down here and pull that over. So On my clown footage, I've got a scatter at 0, which is fine. It's gonna start at 0. So I went ahead and dropped a keyframe there. So if I toggle this down, I see my first keyframe is here. I'm gonna bring this forward just a little bit, and I'm gonna put that scatter to 100 a lot %. So it doesn't completely disappear. So let's just look. It's gonna take a minute for the computer to think about this. So I may have scattered it. Let's see. I may have scattered too much. It's too much scatter. Let me see. That was pretty intense. Let's just do a scatter of 100 here. And so I dropped another keyframe, and that's okay. I'm just going to delete my last one. So let's see what that does. See if I can get a preview at all. Okay, so there's the beginning of scattering, and then we scatter a lot. And then what I want to actually do is have this, because it doesn't completely disappear, it scatters a whole bunch, and then, well, maybe it does. Let me put this, oh, it is at 1/4. I want to say that it's going to completely disappear. It looks like it did, but I'm going to go ahead and have the opacity drop real fast on this layer right here. I should have it renamed as clown so that it's not as confusing. So this is a skull, clown, and then the bottom one is a zombie. Okay, so if I want this to drop in opacity real quick, what I can do is on this keyframe, you can see I've got the opacity here at 100. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up kind of in between here somewhere so that it's almost at the end of the scatter keyframes, and I'm going to click opacity at 100%, and then pretty shortly after the scatter ends, I'm going to have opacity drop to 0, and that's going to make a nice clean transition between the scatters there. There we go. So there's also a couple of other things that you could do. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things that you could do. So I'm going to get rid of the Scatterize on here on my clown footage, and I'm going to add a couple things. I'm going to get rid of the opacity keyframes. If you ever want to get rid of the keyframes that you've applied to one of the properties of an asset, you can just toggle the clock off. That will just delete any keyframes that you have. So let's look at a couple others here. So I know I wanted to show you, so there's CC Mercury, which is kind of cool, that you can just keyframe in different ways, but it kind of turns whatever asset you have, whether that's an image or a video file, kind of turns it into this liquid mess that could be a transition that you use as well. I'm going to delete that. There is, let's see, how about bubbles? A really cheesy as a transition, but it is something that you could do. You could turn that footage into bubbles. Actually, I don't know how, that might not be the best transition ever. I guess I'm just kind of going through some of the effects here. There's, let's see, I would say under distort, there's some like twirls and things that you can do, some bulges, blobbleize. Let's see what that's probably similar to CC Mercury. Yep. So blobbleizing kind of turns it into it kind of takes parts of the gradient, of the grayscale gradient, it looks like. So I'm just going to Command Z that. There's a page turn that you could do. So CC page turn right here, you could use that as a transition. So this one's a little bit complicated, but you could, is it fold radius that adjusts this? You could make the page sort of flip up. That might be in the presets as something, but anyways, so CC page turn, I'm going to go ahead and just delete that off of there. There's also smear, which is also involved in one of the presets, I believe. Liquefy, let's see what liquefy, I think that's going to be, did it liquefy anything? Oh, we have tools here, so let me see. I'm going to come on here and liquefy. This is very similar to what you would do in Photoshop. So there's other types of manipulations that you could do depending on what it is that you're trying to do. There's way too many to go over in one particular video, but there's some fun stuff in there. So just play around, with whatever. Here's twirl. You could use twirl as a transition as well. So let's see, let's twirl. So we could twirl this and use that as a transition as well. So go ahead and play around, do a couple of transitions, whatever you want. They could be presets or, you know, between, let's say, the 3 videos, or you could do a little bit more if you wanted. I see this twirl needs to be keyed because I have it just twirling. Let me see. So I'm just going to hit 0 on here and get that back to where it was. And so I would want a keyframe. So we're gonna keyframe the angle there. So I've dropped a keyframe, and then as I go forward, I would want it to twirl. Whoa, too much, too much, too much, too much. This is out of control. All right, let me set that back to 0. There we go. Maybe just do a twirl like that. And so now that's keyed. That twirl is keyed. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add this to the render queue, and you're gonna add it to that folder where you have your other 2 text animations that you played around with. So go ahead and add this to that particular folder. And then we're gonna move on to some other ways that you can do some transitions that are a little bit more manually done from scratch in After Effects. They'll be fairly simple. We won't get too complicated, but should give you a few more options and ways to think about transitions, and hopefully you'll be feeling pretty good about this all at the end. So, all right, I will be talking to you again in the next video.